Today I'm going to be speaking about why we follow Jesus. And I actually have some testimonies of myself, so I'm kind of glad no one came up because we've been here for a while. But I'm going to give some of that testimony later on in this talk. So I'm just going to read from the passage of John 2, verse 1 to 11. You will turn with me there as well. Which version is that one, sir? I'll speak from there. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So some of you read that and you said, "Yeah, I'm following Jesus. He turns water into wine. That's it for me." But is that the reason why we follow Jesus? Is that the only reason why we should do it, because of the miracles that he gives? I think not. There are many other reasons why we should follow Jesus, and I'm going to be taking you through them. But from this passage alone, I just thought it was quite interesting that this is actually the first time Jesus reveals his glory, and it's at quite an older age as well. And in fact, the whole book of John is about, that's one of the main themes, is the glory of Jesus being revealed. I thought it was quite interesting that Mary, his mother, brought this issue to him and trusted him so much that she told his disciples to just do whatever he told them. And it just shows the amount of faith that she had in his ability, and it shows that he had probably done these things from before. She just had so much confidence in him that he would exercise this miracle. And it just makes you wonder, did Mary ever have to buy groceries in the house? Did she ever have to buy bread or anything like that? These questions come to mind, like, what was it like to have God himself, Jesus, living in your house your whole life? Like, that's Emmanuel, God with us, living with her. How would he respond if he sinned, if she had sinned in his presence? And what will happen then? This gives certain questions. And this makes me think perhaps we could even use that as a standard for ourselves. This topic is why do we follow Jesus? If God was living in our house, what would it look like? Like if Jesus was living in your house, would you have certain DVDs, certain music, certain books? Like if he was to walk over and just start skimming through, would you try and stop him, or would you feel no way about him doing that? And I think it does just give a lot of food for thought. Some of you may have heard of a man called Ray Comfort. He's a very, very good preacher, and remember some of the things I used to watch of him, he used to put a lot of emphasis on things like this, on entertainment, Christians watching certain things, listening to certain things. And one thing in particular he used to ask a lot of Christians is whether they believe they should watch R-rated movies, so movies with like swearing and things like that. And it even had like a documentary, a very short one, where he just went around asking loads of Christians, do you believe you should watch R-rated movies? And if they said no, and he'd be like, okay, do you watch them? You say yeah. And he'd be like, why? Why do you watch something that you don't believe you should watch? Kind of, obviously that's not what this service is about, but a lot of the time we hear things and we go, oh, that's true. And then we just go straight back into doing it again. We don't change. But that's one of the challenges I'm going to be given. Following Jesus, what does it mean to follow Jesus? Do we just stay the way that we are, or do we change our lifestyle? Do we make a sacrifice? So back to this miracle. From this miracle we can see that Jesus is no ordinary person. He's turned water into wine. I don't know how many people you personally know that have done that, but from that alone we can see that Jesus is different. He's not just any ordinary man. There's something supernatural about him. But as I said before, that's not necessarily the only reason you would follow Jesus, just because he done a miracle, because there's other people that done miracles in the Bible. Not sure if you've read the story of Moses in Exodus, when a lot of the time the magicians could repeat the miracles that God was doing through Moses. When he turned the sea, the river into blood, the magicians done the same thing. There was many of the miracles that they could do. And Jesus even said himself in Luke 11 verse 29, it says, as the crowds were increasing, he began to say, this generation is a wicked generation. It seeks for a sign, and yet no sign will be given to it but the sign of Jonah. So Jesus was very much against just following things because of a miracle, of a sign. That's not the only reason why he followed things. And so much so that this is recorded actually in each of the synoptic gospels. So in each of the gospels there seem to be people that remember Jesus saying this. So this was something that is quite significant. So before I go into more questions about why we follow Jesus, perhaps it would be good to decipher what it means to follow Jesus. It might be easy as 1 + 1 to you what that means, but just in case it isn't, I thought it would be good to look at the Greek word for follow. So in Greek there's a word known as akalauteo. Probably haven't said that properly, but it's spelled akolouttheo, akalauteo. And it stems from a word that means to accompany and to assist. So I found this quite interesting, because when we follow Christ, one of the things that then happen is that he uses us to help him accomplish his will. We give our lives to him, and then it actually we become vessels of Christ, where he can use us to preach the gospel, to heal others, to encourage people, give them counsel. All God doing these things through us. So yeah, that's some of the definitions that come from the word follow. Look to the Oxford Dictionary. To follow, it said, it's to trace the movement of or direction as someone, to go in the same direction as them. So can we do this with Jesus? I mean, Jesus isn't necessarily physically here with us, so how can we follow him, go in the direction of him? Well, obviously we have the Bible, we have the Gospels, we can see everything that Jesus, well, not everything, but everything recorded of Jesus doing, we have it in the Bible. And we can challenge ourselves to live in the same way. We can look at every situation Jesus was in. How did he respond? How did he act? What was his speech like? What was his countenance like when people came to him with certain things? I know Tom mentioned last week actually the importance of having a role model. And it's good to analyse your role model, see how they respond in certain situations so that we can learn from them. And he actually said that when Jackie Pullinger was coming, he's going to be following her around, analysing her very closely. I thought it was a bit weird, to be honest with you, but I got what he was saying. I understood what he was saying, to be honest with you. How much more should we do that with Jesus? How much more should we study him and respond in the same way that he responds? Have the same temperament and countenance as he has. Jesus said that if we love him, we should obey his commands. He said many things, and that's one way we can follow him, by obeying his commands. He said things like, Do good to those who persecute you. Love one another. Take the gospel to the four winds of the earth. And many of the things that he commanded us to do, we actually see him living out in the scriptures. For example, like when the Romans came to capture Jesus, when he was going to be delivered up to be crucified, Peter cut off one of the ears of one of the Roman soldiers, and then Jesus healed the man's ear. When they were going to crucify Jesus, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." So to follow Jesus would mean to forgive people even in those kind of situations. But why would you do that? Why would you want to live in a lifestyle like that? I mean, doesn't it look a bit soft to, I don't know, someone's coming to persecute you, and rather than, instead of fighting back, you're just going to let them capture you and you're going to heal one of their ears as well? I mean, why would you want to do that? Why would you turn the other cheek when someone slaps you? Why would you hand over your expensive North Face coat if someone asks for it, or your Canada Goose coat? Why would you do that? It sounds bizarre, but these are things that Jesus told us to do. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 38 to 40, or to 45 actually, he says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, not to resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your North Face coat also. Give to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. So this is what it sounds like. This is what it means to follow Jesus, doing all of these above things. Many of you may have heard the story of when the man came to Jesus, very bold and lofty about the things that he has done, how good he was, and obeying all the commandments from young. He was so happy about it. He was boasting to Jesus about it almost. And Jesus said to him, you still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. But many of you know he went away sad. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to follow Jesus in that way. So, judging by many of the things I've said, when it comes to defining what it means to follow Jesus, many words can come to mind, but if I were to pin it down to one main thing, I would say it's denying yourself. Following Jesus means denying yourself. What's it like to not follow Jesus? Well, I'll ask the question, those of you who do follow Jesus already, how do you think life would be without him? If he left you to yourselves and turned you over to your own devices, your lusts and passions, how would life be? Would you benefit, or would you think it would be worse than it is now? Are you benefiting from following Jesus? And there might be some of you here who don't follow Jesus, who already go by their own desires, they just do whatever they want. How's life going? It's a question I'd like to ask you. Maybe it's going well, you think, and if so, perhaps I can persuade you to follow Jesus by some of the reasons I'll soon give. But in this life that we live, in this world, a lot of the ideologies are about doing whatever you want to do, whatever you think is right. Whatever your inner ambitions and feelings are tending to do, you do that. Some of you know the rapper Jay-Z. A couple of years ago, I remember he was really homing in on this quote, do as thou wilt. Like, do whatever you do whatever you want to do. And sadly, that very phrase actually comes from the Satanic Bible. I don't know if some of you know that, but it's actually a quote from the Satanic Bible. And if you think about it, if everyone really was to do what they want and just go by their own inner feelings, where would we be if pedophiles decided, let me act on this, and there'll be no punishment for it? Where would life go? So now I'm going to move on to why do we follow Jesus. I've said what it means to follow Jesus, but why do we do this? Why do you turn the other cheek? Why do you do what he says to do and not what you want to do necessarily? Well, one reason is in the scripture I just read above. I'll read it again just in case. He said, when Jesus heard this, he said to him, you still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. So that's one reason why we follow Jesus. There's treasures in heaven. In other words, you will go to heaven. In Revelations chapter 3, verse 5 to 6, we see an example of one of these treasures. It says, the one who conquers, I will grant him to sit with me on my throne, as I also conquered and sat down with my Father on his throne. So, you get to sit in the control seat for a bit. So it sounds a bit fun. But me personally, the greatest thing about that is the fact that I'll enter in anyway. In fact, just entering in for me is enough. David, one of the patriarchs in the Bible, he said, if I can just be the doorman, that's good enough. You know what I mean? Another passage that comes up as well, it says that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. Scripture is actually in Matthew 5. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. Personally, I'd rather be on God's side than against him. I mean, God made the sun. The sun that's like 150 million kilometers away, and you can still feel the warmth from it. Wouldn't you rather be on his side, the one who made that sun? That alligator, that shark? You know, the Bible says the fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom. And obviously we don't just follow God because we're scared of him, but it's good to have a fear and a reverence for God. I mean, I don't know if many of you have seen the Avengers, how strong Thanos is in the Avengers and the Hulk. So how Thanos beat up the Hulk. Sorry if I'm spoiling it for anyone. That's in the Infinity War, not Endgame. I won't tell you about Endgame. But if you haven't seen Infinity War by now, that's your own fault, I'm sorry. Straight away in the film, Thanos beats up the Hulk straight away, and you're thinking, oh dear, what now? Well, I submit to you that God could click his fingers and Thanos would disappear straight away. He wouldn't have to click his fingers. He would just think the thought and he would disappear. Thanos doesn't exist, but if he did, that's what would happen. That's the one whose side I want to be on. I said previously that life may be going well for you, even though you don't follow Jesus. You might feel that you're on top of the moon right now, things are going well, like you're untouchable. But I would also like to submit that life can change just like that. In Infinity War again, Thanos clicked his fingers and everyone's life was ruined straight away, just in a second. And that speaks to me of how life can be. Everything can going so well, and just like that, life, disaster can come, calamity come. Wouldn't you rather be on God's side when that calamity comes? Wouldn't you rather have someone to fall back on, to help you? The peace that he can bring to you if some sickness comes upon you, wouldn't you rather have God there who can heal you or help you get through any trouble that you're in, basically? Andy said last week, actually, with Mike Tyson, one of his famous quotes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. If you get punched in the face, wouldn't it be good to fall back on Jesus? Wouldn't it be good to have him there? Another reason that comes up to me as well, God is a wonderful provider. Jesus always provides for those who follow him. And I actually have a testimony. There's two I can give to you. I'm only going to give one for the sake of time. There's one, I'm going to let you lot choose which testimony I'm going to tell you actually. There's one where he provides for me just for entertainment purposes. And there's another one where he provides for me because my health was bad. Which one do you want to hear? If you want to hear the health one, put your hands up.
Health.
You want to hear the entertainment one, yeah, no. I think the entertainment one has one. I don't know if this time, if Tom allows me to do both later on, I'll up with that one as well. But for now, the entertainment one, the past few months, in fact this whole year, it's been quite a struggle in terms of finance because of the whole job situation and everything. I'm working, but not necessarily in the same place where I was before. And I've been challenged just by this feel God challenging me, and through other things to really trust God with my finances and give to Him in terms of like offering, tithe, those kind of things. And a couple of weeks ago, I also just randomly had, not necessarily randomly, I had a desire to have a Nintendo Switch because some of my friends have it and the games are really, I don't know if any of you played Smash Bros, but I really like that game. I haven't wanted a console in like 10 years. Last time I bought a console was about 10 years ago. I'm not that type of guy really, but I really like this game and I really had the desire to get a Switch. And we've been going through the book of James about praying to God in faith, and I've really been exercising my faith this year. So I just prayed to God, I really want this Switch. I actually want one. Can you give me one, please? And I said it like that in faith. It wasn't a long prayer, but I really earnestly said it to Him. And also, I also prayed about the whole giving situation, because it wasn't, sometimes when I give, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. I give, but it's hard. And I just prayed, God, can you help this not to be a hard thing? I want to be able to give to you and trust in you, because I know you're going to provide for me anyway, but it's always like, it's hard to let go of this money. So I gave to Him and I just prayed that prayer. And within less than a week, I got his tax return, got his letter with this amount. And the amount that came in the letter was enough for me to get the Switch. I don't know how many of you have a Switch, but the Switch is actually quite expensive. But it was enough to cover that. It was enough to cover also an exam that I wanted to do as well. So within like 2 days, I bought the Switch. It was there next day, delivery. And I was thinking, wow. A couple of days ago, I was praying here in my room for the Switch, and now it's right here on my bed. I could not believe it, honestly. And that's one of the wonderful things about following Jesus. Not because He just gives us a Nintendo Switch, but He's our Father, and Jesus loves us. And when we do follow Jesus, we're actually getting into a relationship, a father to son, father to daughter relationship, where He provides for us above and beyond. He provides you with your basic needs, your food, your water, and He even provides you with things that aren't necessarily things that you need, but just your entertainment, as long as it's not impeding on your salvation, of course. Don't know how much time I have left, but I've got more to say. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I'm just going to read that scripture as well, actually. Sorry, let me just find it. Probably got 3 minutes now. I can't find it, but it's just basically the scripture about where Jesus is saying, don't worry about what you will wear, what you will eat. Clothes the birds, clothes the flowers. So if He's doing that for the flowers and the birds, how much more is He going to clothe you and provide the food for you, who's worth much more than those things? And one of my favorite reasons to follow Jesus is because of love. Because we love Jesus. I think for me personally, that's the best reason to follow Jesus, because you love Him. As I said before, Jesus said, if you love me, obey my commands. So the reverse of that would be, if you don't love me, don't obey my commands. Or you can put it, obey my commands if you love me. ask the question. I want to ask the question. What's your favourite meal? Think about your favourite meal right now. Do you eat that meal because someone tells you to eat that meal, or do you eat that meal because you love that meal? What game do you love playing? What book? What's your favourite book? What's your favourite TV show? Do you watch these things because someone's told you to, or because you love doing it? What I'm basically getting at, if you haven't got it ready, is that it's much better to follow Jesus because you love him. If you actually love Jesus, you're going to have a much easier time obeying him and doing the things that he tells you to do, rather than you following Jesus because you're scared of going to hell, or I don't know, because you've seen the good things that he does for people, you want him to do that for you. It's much more than that. You need to have a loving relationship with Jesus. Why do you spend time with your wife? Just because the Bible tells you to? I hope not. It should be because you love your wife or your husband. And I just want us to be challenged on that today. Do we really love Jesus? Are you doing this because you love him? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're... Just be honest with yourself. Maybe you don't love Jesus all as you should. You know that. And if that's the case, we can pray about that as well. We can pray that God will bring that greater love in you for him. Because you're only fooling yourself. God knows. God knows if you love him or not. And the fact that we're all here breathing means that we will have a chance. As long as you're alive, you have a chance to follow Jesus. You have a chance to submit to him. You have a chance for your love for him to grow deeper. So I think I'm going to leave it there.
You just want to repeat what you said about what I said about Czechology.
I turned the other, if you're distracted, I turned the other cheek.
Who thinks we should hear Miles' other testimony?
Yeah. Come on, son.
I'll just tell you what, if it's going to encourage my kids to start praying for all these consoles, just don't give it.
Okay. So with this one, basically, I have asthma. Sometimes it can be quite bad, but with asthma, a lot of it is psychological as well. And about a month ago, I went to pick up my prescription, and unfortunately, I have to pay for my prescriptions, and the price has recently gone up in them. So when I was buying it, and then when she told me the price, I said, "What now?" And I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to leave one of them behind. So that I could have, basically, when you buy asthma pumps, with my type of asthma, you buy a preventer and you buy the reliever. So the reliever is like the emergency one. So I thought, I'm just gonna buy that one. I'll come back for the other one if I need it. So a couple of days ago, when I was doing one of my acting things, some series, it was a lovely day. Everything was going well, and I was gonna meet up with some friends afterwards because my friend has an entertainment agency where he scouts for talent sometimes and stuff. So I was with him, helping him out with that, and I realised that I left my asthma pump all the way in Chobham or Woking, so there's no way I was getting that back. And as soon as I realised that, the psychological thing started happening. Now I've got my asthma pump. If I need my asthma pump, it's not there. I'm going to start not being able to breathe, and it all started to happen. I wasn't able to breathe properly. And if those of you who have asthma, you know that, I don't know if any of you are, but when you go to the hospital, they will see you straight away. They'll sort out your asthma, but you then have to wait like 5 hours for them to make the asthma pump. And it was like 11 p.m. I was thinking this is going to be a very long night. Just preparing my mind for that. We also was meant to go and see a friend that we see when it's her birthday, because we have another friend who killed himself, sadly, around the time, so we remember him for her birthday. So we was at her, so I'll go there and I'm going to have to go to the hospital afterwards. So we got there to my friend's house now, and before I was in there, I thought, let me exercise another prayer of faith. I said, God, please, can you put my asthma pump in my bag right now? Please, I need it. put my hand in my bag, and it wasn't there. So yeah, went into my friend's house. I said to them, if I seem like I'm dying, if I'm seeing like I'm antisocial, it's because I can't breathe properly. I'm just trying to focus on my breathing. And then my friend, she said, "Oh, do you need an asthma pump?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, I have one." And she went and she brought an asthma pump for me. I was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And I said, I was so happy. I said, "Thank you so much. I'll wash it and I'll get back to you after I've used it." She's like, "No, you can keep it." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Thank you so much." And then she said, "Do you want more?" And then she went into, she said her doctor keeps prescribing her with them, but she doesn't actually need them. So she had about 4 asthma pumps, including the one that I had to leave behind that week. And this gave them all to me. And that was that, so
Did you say you had a friend who runs an entertainment agency who's always scouting for talent? Just because... Do you reckon you could...
I'll see what I can do. Yeah. You have to be able to sing though.
I didn't listen. Oh. I didn't listen to the rest of the testimony after that. Hopefully it was good. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Love that. Let's ask Jesus to